Before we dive in, let me leave you with a truth that echoes across every chapter in human history. Nothing we are began in silence. Every civilization, every story, every ancestor left a trail of wisdom waiting to be rediscovered. What you are about to hear is a part of a legacy, preserved, decoded, and brought back to the forefront. I'm OG Mooney. Welcome to AI Legacy Lab.
The story of OJ Simpson is a tale that feels almost like a modern myth, a story of incredible highs and devastating lows that captured the world's attention. It begins not in the spotlight, but in the tough working-class neighborhoods of San Francisco. This is where a young Orenthal James Simpson grew up, surrounded by families who navigated life with a quiet strength and unwavering determination. His early years were not easy. They were filled with challenges that forced him to search for a sense of purpose, a direction, and an identity in a world that often felt limiting. He was a kid looking for a way out, a way to be seen for who he could become, not just where he was from. And then he found it. He discovered running. It wasn't just that he could run. It was how he ran. There was a natural grace, a power, and a speed that set him apart. Running became his language, his escape, and his ticket to a different life. It was a rare gift, an almost supernatural ability to glide past others, to turn a simple foot trace into a display of pure athletic art. This wasn't just about physical speed. It was about focus. When he ran, the complexities of his life seemed to melt away, leaving only the track ahead and the finish line. He poured all his energy into this gift, using it to rise above his environment, to chase a future that was far grander than the one he had been born into. Every step he took on the track was a step away from his challenging past and toward a horizon filled with promise and possibility. As he entered high school, his talent began to truly blossom. The name OJ Simpson started to echo through the local sports scene. He wasn't just a fast runner anymore. He was a force of nature on the football field. His combination of speed, agility, and power was something people had rarely seen. College scouts took notice, and soon he was on a much bigger stage at the University of Southern California. At USC, he transformed from a local hero into a national phenomenon. They called him the Juice, and the name fit perfectly. He was electrifying. Every time he touched the ball, the entire stadium held its breath, waiting for the magic to happen, and it always did. He carried himself with a unique presence, a cool confidence that made him seem untouchable. He won the Heisman Trophy, the most prestigious award in college football, cementing his status as a living legend before he even turned professional. He wasn't just a player. He was an icon, admired for his incredible talent and the effortless way he seemed to command the field. The transition to the NFL with the Buffalo Bills was the next logical step, and it was here that his fame exploded into a new stratosphere. He shattered records, most famously becoming the first player to rush for over 2,000 yards in a single season. His running style was a spectacle of its own, a beautiful, brutal ballet of jukes, spins, and pure acceleration that left defenders grasping at air. But OJ's appeal went far beyond the gridiron. He had a charisma, a million-dollar smile, and an easygoing charm that made him a natural in front of the camera. He became one of the first black athletes to achieve mainstream commercial success on such a massive scale. You saw him everywhere, running through airports for Hertz rental cars, flashing his smile in commercials, and appearing in movies and on television shows. He was more than just a football star. He was a brand. This carefully crafted public image was one of confidence, success, and crossover appeal. He was the athlete who transcended race and sport, becoming a beloved American figure. To millions, he was a symbol of what was possible, a man who had come from humble beginnings and reached the absolute pinnacle of success through talent and hard work. His image was polished, articulate, and immensely likable. He built a persona that seemed to break down barriers, creating a bridge between the world of sports and mainstream popular culture. This public OJ was the embodiment of the American dream, a figure of achievement and influence who seemed to have it all: the fame, the fortune, and the adoration of a nation. He was a cultural icon, and his name was synonymous with victory. But behind the dazzling success and the charismatic public persona, a different story was unfolding. The immense fame and the ever-expanding opportunities were creating a world around him that was insulated and complex. His life became a bubble of celebrity, where the normal rules didn't always seem to apply. The same drive and ambition that had propelled him to greatness also fostered a powerful sense of entitlement. He was OJ Simpson, the hero, the celebrity, the man who could do no wrong in the public's eye. This dual reality, the public image versus the private life, was a fragile construction. While he was building an empire of fame and influence, the foundations were slowly, almost imperceptibly, beginning to crack. The path he was on, paved with so much success and admiration, was leading him toward a moment that would redefine his legacy forever. All the charisma, all the records, all the commercials, it all became a prelude to a story that no one could have predicted. His journey from the streets of San Francisco to the peak of American celebrity was extraordinary, but it was also setting the stage for one of the most polarizing and intensely watched chapters in modern history. The man who had once united people in awe of his athletic prowess would soon find himself at the center of a storm that would divide a nation and leave everyone asking the same question. How could someone who had reached such incredible heights fall so far, so fast? His rise was a spectacle, but it was the tragic fall that would ensure his name was never forgotten. O.J. Simpson's life was a masterclass in navigating the world of fame. From the football field to the silver screen, he wasn't just a celebrity. He was a constant presence, a familiar face woven into the fabric of American culture. This wasn't a life lived in private moments. It was a life lived under the relentless gaze of the camera. A world shaped by attention, public focus, and the ever-present hum of media. Imagine a daily routine that's less about personal time and more about public performance. It was a whirlwind of television appearances, promotional work, and roles that constantly placed him in front of massive audiences. Interviews, tight schedules, and a never-ending stream of media requests became his normal. These weren't just obligations. They were the building blocks of his public persona, the carefully constructed image that millions of people came to know, and they believe, understand. But with every smile for the camera, with every charismatic interview, a gap began to form. It was a quiet, growing space between the O.J. Simpson everyone saw and the person he was behind closed doors. The public image was polished, heroic, and universally loved. The private reality, however, was something far more complex, known only to a select few. This environment of constant scrutiny wasn't something he could simply switch off. The spotlight followed him everywhere. From the glitz of film sets to the quiet of his own home. It influenced how he acted, how he spoke, how he moved. Every choice, big or small, was made with an awareness of the audience. The pressure to maintain this larger-than-life visibility was immense, becoming an integral, inseparable part of his daily existence. Think about that for a moment. What does it do to a person when their life is a performance? When every action is judged not by its private intent, but by its public perception? As his fame grew, so did the reach of his name. It traveled far beyond the sports arenas and studios where he worked, echoing in magazines, on broadcasts, and in everyday conversations. He became a symbol, an icon whose story was no longer just his own. It belonged to the public, to be dissected, discussed, and defined by others. This constant external validation and interpretation began to blur the lines. The stronger the spotlight became, the more his world shifted. It was a world increasingly shaped by perception rather than reality. A funhouse mirror reflecting a distorted, amplified version of himself. Living inside this media-saturated bubble became his reality. He wasn't just navigating it. He was a part of it, a central character in a story being written in real time by headlines and television screens. This was the atmosphere he breathed, the world he inhabited as it continued to expand and warp around him. It was a setting built on fame, perception, and the widening chasm between a public hero and a private man. And it was this very environment, this world of smoke and mirrors, that set the stage for the dramatic, life-altering events that were to come, pulling him from the pages of pop culture and into the annals of history for reasons no one could have ever predicted. The man the world thought it knew was about to become the center of a story that would captivate, divide, and forever change how we view fame, justice, and the nature of truth itself. The legal proceedings against OJ Simpson began, marking the start of a chapter that would unfold with a relentless, steady pace. The world's attention turned to the courtroom, where each day brought a methodical presentation of evidence and testimony. Attorneys for both the prosecution and the defense meticulously built their cases, piece by piece, while witnesses took the stand to share what they knew, what they saw, and what they believed. The public, captivated by the unfolding drama, watched with an intense curiosity that never seemed to wane. Every major news network dedicated significant airtime to the trial, transforming the courtroom proceedings into a consistent daily feature of American life. It wasn't just news. It became a part of everyday conversation, a shared national experience that played out in real time. This created a single ongoing narrative, a story that moved forward day after day without the manufactured highs and lows of a fictional drama. The process was the story, and the story was the process. As the trial stretched from weeks into months, the rhythm of the courtroom became familiar to millions. The methodical questioning, the objections, the sidebars, it all blended into a continuous stream of information. The public learned about DNA evidence, glove forensics, and the intricacies of the legal system in a way they never had before. The trial wasn't a series of dramatic explosions. It was a slow, deliberate burn. Each new piece of information, whether from a forensic expert or a personal acquaintance, was simply another brick in the wall of the larger case. The media coverage mirrored this steadiness, providing a constant flow of updates, analysis, and expert commentary. The story wasn't about sudden twists or shocking revelations, but about the relentless forward march of the legal machine. This constant presence made the trial a fixture in the national consciousness, a story that was always there, always developing, but always moving at its own measured pace. When the verdict was finally reached, it wasn't a sudden climax that shattered the narrative. Instead, it was another moment in a continuous sequence of events. The announcement itself was a procedural step, followed immediately by a wave of reactions that were just as much a part of the story as the trial itself. The public discussion didn't end. It simply shifted its focus. Across television, radio, and newspapers, the conversation continued, analyzing the outcome, debating its implications, and reflecting on the journey that had brought everyone to this point. The verdict was a significant event, but it was seamlessly integrated into the ongoing timeline, another chapter in a book that was far from over. It didn't break the pattern. It reinforced it. The steady, unbroken chain of events simply continued, pulling the verdict and its immediate aftermath into its continuous flow. The nation had been watching a marathon, not a sprint, and this was just another mile marker. After the trial concluded, O.J. Simpson's life didn't return to any semblance of normalcy. Instead, he entered a new phase, one defined by constant navigation of financial challenges, further legal issues, and the unwavering glare of public attention. His celebrity, once a source of adoration, now ensured that he remained a figure of intense public interest. Every move he made, every business venture he attempted, was scrutinized. His name continued to circulate in news stories, documentaries, and public conversations, maintaining a consistent level of interest that time did little to diminish. This period of his life wasn't marked by quiet reflection away from the spotlight. It was a continuation of the public narrative, just with a different setting. The challenges he faced were not isolated incidents, but part of the same long, unbroken chain of consequences stemming from the trial. His life remained a public spectacle, a continuous story that people felt they had a right to follow. Years passed, but the story of O.J. Simpson never truly faded. The entire situation remained a single extended timeline, where every development connected directly to the next without sharp breaks or dramatic shifts. The civil trial, the financial judgments, The later legal troubles in Las Vegas, they all felt like subsequent chapters in the same saga. Each event was shaped by the legal outcomes and public perception established years earlier. Media coverage persisted, with anniversaries of the trial prompting new waves of documentaries, articles, and discussions. The narrative didn't need new dramatic turns to sustain itself. Its own history provided more than enough material. It became a long, unbroken chain of cause and effect, where the past was always present, influencing every new development. The story had a life of its own, a continuous loop of legal battles, public scrutiny, and media reflection that seemed to have no definitive end. The lasting impact of these events has solidified into a continuous, ongoing discussion about themes far larger than one man's life. It became a permanent fixture in conversations about fame, race, justice, and the powerful influence of public opinion. The story transcended the specific details of the case and became a cultural touchstone, a reference point for understanding the complexities of the American legal system and media landscape. This unified narrative stretches seamlessly from the peak of his athletic and acting career, through the crucible of his legal battles, and into the long extended period of analysis and reflection that followed. No single moment stands apart. Each one is intrinsically linked to the next, forming a single continuous timeline. The Heisman Trophy, the Hertz commercials, the white Bronco, the glove, the verdict, the subsequent legal issues, they are all part of one story, a long, unbroken narrative that continues to be discussed and debated. Thank you for watching. If you found this perspective interesting, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into complex stories.
Another chapter reclaimed, another piece of history placed back where it belongs. If you have found any meaning in this, let it sit with you. Let it sharpen your vision, not just for the past, but for who we are becoming. I'm OG Mooney, and this is AI Legacy Lab. Honoring truth, protecting legacy, one story at a time. Until next time, stay curious.